Uh, hey, what's up, everyone? Mike here in the BFH garage, and I know I just finished up the rear shock outboard. We just finished up the mid-arm install. Before I move on to the other projects I was telling you about, I've got to figure out my muffler. I've got to figure out what I'm going to do for my exhaust because I have a shakedown run I want to do before we go to Moab, and I want to have some form of exhaust system in place. It's something I have to do anyway, so I'm just going to do it right now. I'm going to do it right. I'm going to show you how to do it. I am going to try to keep this video short. I know my other videos get on the longer side of that 35, 40 minutes. I just want to touch on this because I think it's pretty important when you're up there looking to see how everything fits. So the exhaust I just brought out here, this is the stock muffler. This is a Walker exhaust here. This thing's 18 inches long, 10 inches wide, 4 3/4 thick, depending on where you measure it, because it's all bent. But anyway, this thing's huge to fit under there with that mid-arm in place. So what I've opted to do is make a mock muffler here. So I've looked online at some universal mufflers that I can make work, and there's several different versions here. But this one here, 14 inches long, 4.5 inches thick, and 9 inches wide. And now you could go with the standard muffler like this, or you can go with the resonator, or you can go with 2 resonators. So the resonators are the round bullet looking style. If you put 2 of those in line, that will help settle down that noise. But I'm looking for quiet. I hate that droning when you're on the trail. I hate the loud V8 wannabe exhaust sound. That stuff's just not for me. So I want to try to go back to some sort of muffler to put in there. Now the reviews have been really good on the Hush Thrush. The question is, will it fit or not? So I need to work some things out. But anyway, to keep this short, come take a look with me. I'm going to show you where this stock exhaust went originally and why we're going to need to move to something shorter. So there's not a whole lot of room to see under here, so I have you guys on a wide angle lens. First thing I want you to notice on the exhaust is you have a center inlet, and then you have an offset outlet. You can get these to where it's center. You get it where it's center offset like that, or you can get them where it's offset one side, offset the other, so you have options of what you want to do. This originally went right here before the mid-arm went in, so you can see all of the interference here. Now this is at full droop. Even at full stuff or even ride height, that's going to definitely be in the way. So this just isn't going to work. So now let's take our mock muffler over here. This is our 14-incher, whatever brand you want to use. If I keep everything else the same and I try to install this thing here, you can see how this is also going to not work. What I need to do is I'm going to have to modify some exhaust up here, and I'll come show you here in a second, to move everything that way so this muffler can move back into here. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Come around this other side. What you didn't get to see from the angle from the back side was the sideways angle and how this is going to fit. And you could see how it just starts running into everything. So let me throw this box out of the way, come back under here. So you can see how I modified my exhaust previously to get that Walker to fit in there. So I cut some pipe, welded it all up, and it worked for what I needed. Now I need to push this exhaust that way. When you come back here, I have a catalytic converter that I have to account for, but I'm already seeing ways that I can save room. So for example, right here at this joint with this catalytic converter, I welded in a little coupling thing to get my catalytic converter replaced. So this is virtually a brand new catalytic converter. I want to use that, but as you can see, I have about 3 inches that I could move between here. I can move this entire thing forward. I could trim some of this off, which will help even scoot a little bit forward. So this is going to have to get tucked up nice and tight to everything. And in the in there, what it's going to do is it's going to move the connection here forward as well. But there is a lot of slop in here that I can clean up now that's going to also move everything this way. Eventually, this connection here, I want to be all the way back up into here somewhere. And I'm not sure exactly I'm going to do that because I still have to account for my O2 sensor right here. I still have to account for the hanger that goes into my transmission mount there. So all of that has to be reworked, redeployed, and somehow make it fit. So what I'm looking at right now is remove the entire exhaust out. I'm going to place my little box up there and see what kind of room I'm going to need to make this work. Then I need to order that muffler, whatever particular muffler I'm going to go with, and then start piecing it together. So when you're looking at this, the one thing I'm going to want to do once this is all out is I'm going to set that new muffler up here. I'm going to put some spacers between it, make sure it's not touching anything, get it where I need it. And then I'm going to start building the exhaust around where that muffler is located. How tight everything is here. I have my 241 transfer case. This little nub sticking out, which you use when they cast the case there. I could probably cut that back a little bit, but where my cross member goes, I'm going to be kind of stuck. But then you got to think about mufflers nowadays. They're more oval, not square. So more than likely, I'll be able to clock this thing a little bit to get around that if I need to move it forward. Coming back here, though, you can see how I have plenty of room from where the Johnny joints are. You remember the old muffler was hitting clear up here, so that'll help. My question then is here, let me come put you around the backside so you can get a better look here. So my question is going to be from that location, hang on, let me get this set. From that location, where do I want my outlet to be? Do I want it to come out center? Do I want it to come out offset this way or offset this way? I have a couple options on what I can do with the axle completely up at full stuff. This upper control arm hits up against the floorboard. I mean, it's tight. So if I put an outlet on this side, I can have it come out this way, kind of in the same line as the upper control arm, and then cut off at an angle up above, straight over, down and out. If I put it to the offset this side, I could come out, but it'd have to come out immediately at some sort of a little bit of a downward angle so I can come underneath the control arm, up tucked high, then out. And I have to get it up tucked high because when this thing goes to full bump, not a whole lot of room up there. And then if I come out from the center, it kind of gives me the option for each of those. So I'm going to sit here and explore this. I'll probably spend more time trying to figure out what type of outlet I want than I will actually installing the exhaust. I will sit here and I will think about this. I'll run some little pipe sections I have just to see how it plays well together, and we'll go from there. So next time I come back on this video, which will be in Snap, I will have the new muffler in hand and be starting to put this thing together. So think about this, try to play the guessing game on what I'm going to do, and we'll see if it matches up. All right, back at it. The muffler came in. This is the thrush, the hush thrush is what it is. 14 inches. My other stock Walker muffler was 18 inches wide, which is significantly longer than that. This one here is just about 10 inches wide, measures about the same as the box I made, but the difference is the box gives you the square corners. This gives you the oval corners, which should help out in trying to get that thing installed. So I've got to know right now before I even start working, so let's get underneath here and see if this thing is going to fit or not. As I go to set this up here, I'm going to use my pull jack to help hold it in place while I do measurements and stuff. Things I need to take into consideration is I want to make sure I clear this bracket because you don't want that rattling while you're on the trail. Next up, I got to make sure I can still get the upper control arm bolt out without having to remove my exhaust. I also have my cross member bracket mounted to the frame up here, so I got to make sure I clear that. There's just all sorts of things that I have to take into consideration. I got to figure out what my exhaust routing is going to be. Looking at this, if I was to turn this over and put it on that side, then you can see how that's going to come right out into that control arm. So I think the best orientation for this is going to be with the center input on this side over here, and then the offset output over here. Kind of gives me some room, but you see I have room to go up still. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pull jack here, I'm going to put it up a little bit, and I'm going to start messing around with this, see what I can do. And again, I still want to make sure I can clear that bolt as well as clear my transfer case and not run into my mount there. So looking at everything, actually, I can move it quite a bit there and it's not hitting anything. So as far as vibrations when the vehicle's moving, I think we're gonna be able to make this work. I just need to make sure I can get it lined up with my exhaust up front, which I can make the pipe pretty much go where I want to go. But the other point is I need to make sure my exhaust comes out, and I could either drop it down and split the two control arms here, or I could have it come straight out and above and probably go over somewhere around the parking brake bracket there. So let's get some measurements done, see what I have to work with, and we're going to see if this thing works or not. Now this may or may not be difficult to see. What I did here is I dropped my exhaust down so that way I can have the extended part of the exhaust here go beyond this exhaust, because I'm gonna have to trim that back. If you look at this one here, it's got a slight bend that comes around that bell housing. I want to make sure I maintain that so it's not bumping up against that bell housing where the starter is. So this has to fit up here roughly about like that, and you can see where I trim my catalytic converter, so I can shove this thing all the way forward if I want, and that gives me a lot of room right here to connect the where the O2 sensor bung goes to where my muffler is set up there. So using my connector pieces here, I trim this one way back just so I can get as much room as I can. This one I can trim up if I need to. I'm not sure if I'm going to have to though. I can set that up there, and then if I move this back, that gives me a whole nother inch to go right to where my muffler is. So I don't even have to trim my muffler right there, and I have room up here to where my catalytic converter clears really well. If I need to, I can move the muffler back actually, and to be honest with you, I can move it, well, I can't really move it forward because I have the cross member bracket there, and move it back. Yeah, the muffler is where it needs to be, so I need to make this all fit up in here to where it connects directly to the muffler right there, and then it's going to be off to the races getting everything else done. That's the big thing I need to get done. I just got to figure out how I'm going to hang that up there, what angles the catalytic converter is going to go, what angles these are going to go to stay out of the way of everything. I'll get it tacked in place and give it a fit. Fun thing about exhaust. There's absolutely nothing fun about running exhaust. When you're doing a completely custom job like this, it's just a matter of trial and error until you get everything to fit. So you remember I had my down pipe that came right here. I cut it off from the catalytic converter so I get everything where I need it. So I measured from here to where my intake on the muffler was, figured out how much room I had to work with, and then I started moving things around, cutting it back a little bit until everything lines up exactly where I want it. Up here, I decided to use a coupling because I can't do a straight weld to it because it's not straight. That's the biggest thing. With the coupling, you can kind of fudge just a little bit, you know, maybe a quarter of an inch either way, and that helps out tremendously for me because my bell housing here makes contact with the pipe, where it's actually really, really close to making contact. When the motor's running, I guarantee that'll sit there and vibrate. Remember I talked about the little indentation in the pipe here, that was to get around that. Well, because I moved my catalytic converter forward, now I need to make a new indentation. So good thing I have a BFH, I'll take care of that nice and easy. Back here, I put my catalytic converter at a slight angle, that way I can make sure my O2 sensor is at the angle I want it there, plus it keeps these ribs off of the frame. The other thing I have to do is my hanger here. So my original exhaust hanger came in right here, and now that I moved it back about 3 inches, I have to rework that and make sure that that's truly supporting the exhaust that way. So that'll be a little bit of minor welding there. That's actually fairly straightforward and easy. And then I got to get my muffler lined up the way I want, and the output pipe slides into the muffler pipe, so that'll be easy, and I could fudge that a little bit if I need as well. So everything's coming together nicely. Just got to get tacked in place, get it out of here. I'm officially done with the front part of the exhaust. Come take a look. As you can see up there, let me get a little bit better, closer look for you. I have everything bolted in there, got my O2 sensor installed over here. If If you recall, I was looking at a possible interference issue, nothing a BFH couldn't fix. So I come back this way, I had to rework my hanger to work with my new exhaust thing. You see my O2 sensor there is at an angle that is perfect for me. I have no interference issues there. I have no interference issues there. Now it's time to work on the exhaust after the muffler. So what I need to figure out now is where I'm going to route my exhaust. I played around with this for a little bit here, and I'm going to route my exhaust above my control arm here. So this is going to kind of come out at this angle here, go up right between these two, between the brake bracket and the tub, and I'm going to shoot it out that way. There's one thing we got to take into consideration though, and that is I have to account for the axle at full bump, because if I don't know where my exhaust is going to go. So if I put it there, that kind of gives me a little bit of a hole there, but to be honest with you, I need to make sure I am at the true full bump, which is 12 inches of travel, which my shocks are. So I measure from the bolt hole here to the Johnny joint up here, and then I can just take my little jack, put it where I need it to be in line with my joint here, because it's not going to be offset much. Get my tape measure, and then measure here 12 inches to make sure that I'm at full bump. And right now I'm still an inch off. So what I need to do then is continue to take the jack and push up on this, because I need it to go into the tub. I want it to be a true full bump. Everything starts getting pushed. And I mean, that's what I love about the suspension. You can't get any more out of it than what's already into it. So right there, exactly 12 inches. Now I know my room that I have to work is this little triangular hole right here. It's not way down here. I need to come off of this and go up at an angle and then out that way. Through lots of trial and error, I got all my pieces to fit. Some I had to custom make, which is typical when you're doing this kind of stuff, but everything is tacked in place. Now I just got to go through and make my final welds. This is the big one here for me. I had to make a little smaller bend, nothing that you can find commercially. So take some pipe, cut some wedges in there, bend it to what I need, and then everything lines up great. I'll show you what it looks like when it's all installed. Finally got the exhaust done. Come take a look. Go to wide angle so you can see here. The thing you want to make sure you're doing when you get your exhaust all set up is you want to clearance away from everything so you don't have rattles. So starting with the catalytic converter back here, remember I put a nice little indentation there so I don't get any rattles there. As you can see right here, I have about a 3/8 inch gap there. I'm not going to get a rattle there. Over here at the mount, I get my full finger through there. That's almost a 1/2 inch. Up here, I got clearance through everything. I even shaved my parking brake bracket just a little bit to make sure it's not going to interfere. It was just real close. I figured it'd probably vibrate, but you can see when I move this right now, there is no vibration anywhere. Coming back here, you can see how you have to cut certain little wedges to make things work. That's what that is. Comes right back out and down and out the back. Now, one thing I wanted to make sure is that when my shock, when I'm at full stuff, the other side full droop this side, this shock body gets real close right here, but it will miss the exhaust there. So everything is all set up the way I want it. It is, like I said, it's a ton of work. So if you want it done right though, you got to take the time to make sure everything goes where it needs to go. Spend a lot of time fitting up parts. I'm telling you, it's hours and hours, at least it was for me, but that is the exhaust in a nutshell.